Are you suffering from social anxiety? I want you to know that this video is a loving and accepting place for you to learn and grow. If you're one of the many who experience an intense fear of social situations, that you worry about being embarrassed in public, maybe worried about judgment, I want you to know that you're not alone. This video is for you. All the advice here is from my own personal experience and my personal learning. In this video, our first step will be to understand the cause of social anxiety, and then we'll explore specific steps to improve our situation. I want to focus on a cause that for many of us is missed, because it's usually hidden. It's called childhood emotional neglect, or CEN, C-E-N for short. Now, instead of a dry explanation, let me give you an example. I don't know about you, but I find that I learn best by examples. So imagine a young boy at school. Let's call him Ben. He's 8 years old. He comes back from class after going to the washroom. Several kids start laughing at him. So Ben looks down, and to his horror and embarrassment, he has a pee stain on his pants. Ben is so embarrassed he can barely hold back tears. He runs home and he's crying. He bursts into the house and he's crying to his mom. And through his tears, he tells his mom what happened. Now, his mom is busy. She works from home and she's taking care of Ben's brother and sister. So she can't deal with this upset. Life is overwhelming enough. So she tells him to be a big boy, stop crying, and it's not a big deal. And anyway, it's his fault for not using the washroom like a big boy. Now, if this is a consistent reaction Ben gets when his emotions are intense, he will learn all the wrong things. He will learn that he's wrong to have emotions, since they disturb and upset his mom and other people. He will learn that he should just push his feelings down, disconnect from them, and not discuss them with anyone. He also learned that whatever happened was his fault, which probably means that something is wrong with him. Now, just saying these things makes me kind of emotional and sad, because it's just sad that that's what Ben is learning. Now, your example may be very different when you didn't get emotional support. It could be that somebody in your family died, that you had some big embarrassment, you had an accident, whatever it is, you got the message that expressing your emotions is not something that's acceptable. It's not something that people want, it's a burden. So you learn to push it down. Back to Ben. So next time something happens, he will push his emotions down. He'll blame himself. His inner voice may say something like, "You stupid idiot, it's all your fault. You're a total loser. Just don't be a crybaby and don't run to anyone. Don't run to mommy, don't run to anyone. Something's wrong with you." This is not about blaming Ben's mom. She learned how to parent from her parents. She's overwhelmed by everything she has to do. But here's something that I wish I knew when I was a young parent. And if Ben's mom knew, it would make it so much easier. It wouldn't take much more effort, and Ben would have a much better inner voice and not suffer from social anxiety. So let's see what an emotionally attuned parent would do. Imagine again that Ben is coming home crying, and his mom does the following. First of all, she takes the time to listen to what happened. She asks him to tell her in detail. She should also validate his emotions. This means she should let him know that it's normal to be embarrassed, to feel shame when something like this happens. Even just saying the emotions, embarrassment and shame, will teach Ben what is happening. So once she listened to the story in detail, once she named and validated his emotion, she now can guide him. She can discuss. He's 8 years old. She can discuss with him what lesson he can learn from this. She can guide him in understanding that anything difficult in life is an opportunity to learn and grow. And most importantly, this warms my heart, she can hug him and love him and let him know that she's proud of him exactly the way he is. Imagine the inner voice that Ben would have. Imagine how we learn that his emotions are valid and that he's good and loved. Now, your example may be different, but if you had some big upsets in your childhood, your parents rarely listened to you, they did not validate your emotion, did not guide you, then CEN, childhood emotional neglect may be the cause of his social anxiety. Because naturally, you'd want to avoid any situation like that because it was pretty traumatic as a child. In a moment, I'll show you how gradual exposure exercise can really help overcome social anxiety. For me, my social anxiety expressed in my debilitating fear of public speaking. But first, I want to give you a few steps to help you heal yourself. In a way, be to yourself the parent that you should have had. 1. Accept that you emotionally neglect, if this fits for you. Often we feel protective of our parents. We claim we had a good childhood. I know I did. Parents worked hard, we always had food, we had a good home. Again, it's not about blaming the parents, it's just realizing that they were not able to give us the emotional support. They were not emotionally tuned in. They were too overwhelmed by life. Regardless how well-meaning they are, we were still emotionally neglected. The first step, like in a lot of programs, the first step is to admit that we have a problem. Hello, my name is Saul, and I suffer from SEN, childhood emotional neglect. Second thing we can do is because we learn to kind of push away and suppress or disconnect from our emotions, we can start to journal, notice, and name the emotions that come up. Because we were cut off from our emotions, we likely barely even recognize them. To heal, we begin the work of reconnecting to our emotions and reconnecting to our true selves. Like imagine if your phone dings and you're getting a text coming in. Are you feeling excited? Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling afraid? Are you feeling happy? Make a note of it. Look up an emotional wheel online. There's the main emotions, but then there's a lot of subtle emotions underneath. The more we learn our emotions, the more we can connect. We can become like an inner detective, noticing and writing down our feelings and emotions. Number 3, be willing to be with negative emotions. One way we survived the hurt as kids was to not feel painful emotions. We disconnected from them. So now we must learn to be with our painful emotions and dare to feel them fully. At first, it's challenging, but then surprisingly, this practice has a sweetness to it. It feels good to have someone, even if it's actually ourselves, notice and feel our hurt and pain. We feel less alone. As you're feeling the hurt, develop a loving inner voice. The number one thing that helped me with my social anxiety was gradual exposure. This is the thing that really can give us the most immediate, concrete results. So again, I like examples, I learn by examples, so let's imagine an example. Worst thing that happens, somebody invited us to a social event. Before we get like scared and find an excuse and say no, let's wait. Set up some gradual exposure. This is how I did it. Set a bunch of items around a room in your house. Anything that will look like give you this idea that it's people. It could be stuffed animals, a mop, pillows, magazine cutouts, whatever we can use and imagine it's people. What we're doing is we're trying to create this feeling of nervousness in us so we get used to it. We're basically getting our nervous system used to this anxiety. So next, let's leave the room, pretend we're preparing for a social event. We can even clean up a bit, dress up, feel and note our emotions and physical reactions. Is our heartbeat quickening? Our hands getting sweaty? Great. You want to induce these symptoms again and again. We want our nervous system to get used to these symptoms. Now let's do what we can manage. At first, might just be peeking into the room full of people and then running back. Maybe jumping in our bed and going under covers. Next, we can stand in the doorway and just look into the room. Whatever emotions arise, feel them, be with them. Remember to comfort ourselves. We can say, consider anxiety, our feelings are normal and valid. And this is normal and we're doing really well and we're really proud of ourselves. So you're having some positive self-talk as you're feeling the symptoms. Next, we can go into the room and pretend to have a conversation with someone. Hey, how's it going? Do anything interesting this weekend? We can keep doing more. Every time we feel anxiety, nervousness, physical symptoms, we train our nervous system to deal with it, get used to it. Step by step, we can do more, we can overcome it. In a few days, if we're comfortable, we can even ask some people in our lives to sit among these items and be live people in our pretend social event. And then again, we can train our nervous system, because now we're going to have we'll be a bit more nervous because there's actually people there. It will take a while, but as your social anxiety becomes more manageable, you'll be amazed with what you can do. If you want to go to a whole other level, I recommend the following steps. 1, read the book Running on Empty. It's got a book and a sequel. I'll put them in the description. 2nd, consider therapy or counseling. It could be in person, it could be online. I know that CBT is very effective, cognitive behavioral therapy, or you can actually find a therapist that focuses on sin, childhood emotional neglect. I'll put resources in the description. If you know someone suffering from social anxiety and you think this video will help them, really appreciate if you share it with them and do the things that YouTube likes.